Okay, Amit, a very good morning and welcome to the first class that we are going to have of the extra classes.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. For your information, we have started the recording and that has to be communicated as per the norms. So you tell me what you would like to start with, anything which you think is important and you have missed.
Sir, joint venture and strategic plans I missed in my class, sir. These topic, can you some doubt about the chapter, sir?
Okay, so we will start with the joint venture and strategic alliance. So let me start with the PowerPoint. Of course, you should have your video on so that we can. I'm just going to start the PPT. You tell me when you can see it on your screen. Okay, it will take a few minutes for the PPT to start. Once it starts, you tell me that yes, it is visible. I will ask you once I've shared it. I'm trying to share it now. Academic 23, Strategic Management, and we have joint ventures and strategic alliance. It is opening at the moment. It is now open. I go full screen. Can you see it?
Still not visible, sir.
If you cannot see it, I will try to share it again.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'll share it again then. Share screen. Yes, can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible.
It is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible.
Okay, so we start with joint venture. Now, let me tell you that joint venture and strategic alliance both need at least two firms to come together. So there are two firms, firm A and firm B. And when they come together, they can form a joint venture or a strategic alliance.
Yes.
Obviously, the reason for forming both of them are more or less same. That is to say, why they have formed a joint venture, you'll find the reasons are more or less same. Then what is the difference? The difference is very simple. Joint venture is formed officially with A and B to make a new firm C under approval of the government through Ministry of Commerce. They have to sanction the joint venture officially. Okay, and in strategic alliance, there is no such government intervention. It is just strategically two firms align with each other so that they form a kind of a partnership, you can say, which helps them to attain certain objectives and purposes that they deem important for their respective firms. So that is the reason why they come together. Generally, And this is the difference between the two. So, as it is, I have worked with a joint venture company. It was called Cefa Marine Industries, where I was the general manager for around 3 to 4 years. And this joint venture was between two companies, a company in Orissa called Sadova Marine making fishing nets, and a company in Norway called Refa AS. So they took the first names and came together and they became a Cefa Marine. Basically, Norwegians, they needed fishing nets of a certain standard and quality which was not being made in India. And they provided the technical know-how, the sources from where you can get the raw materials. Initially, they informed the company that they could source the raw material from Thailand, where they were making fishing yarns which would be required to make the fishing net. So the yarn was imported from Thailand. And then this yarn got converted into fishing net in India. And of course, there was a very, very big difference in the way fishing nets are made for Norway than the fishing industry in India. In India, the small sizes, say 32 mm, they are popular and people catch all so that they can catch, maximize their catch. In Norway, the large sizes, what is a full mesh size in India becomes a half mesh size in there. So almost double, you can say, larger sizes. The reason is they want to catch large fishes so that the small fishes and eggs and all don't get trapped, so that their yield keeps continuing every year. So they have that kind of fishing, uh, technology. They have ultrasound, sonography, all those on board the ship. So they know exactly where the fishes are. They drop the nets and they take it. So they needed nets of those kinds. So they gave the technology to the Indian company. They came, monitored in the production, and then they started making the fishing nets for their own purposes. Now, obviously, this firm, which was made, the new firm, the profit was being divided between both the companies, Refa and Sadoba. Now, what they did was they realized that they could increase the profit if the yarn was manufactured in India instead of importing from Thailand. So they suggested that we import machinery from Taiwan, a machine which could make the yarn from virgin nylon 6, which was, of course, freely available in India, supplied by Reliance and the government, both. So petrochemical companies, one of the products is this nylon 6. So we, instead of buying the yarn from Thailand, where the cost was very high, we purchased this virgin nylon 6 from the petrochemical companies. Reliance Petrochem was there, and then the Indian government had some petrochemical products. So we imported from them. And when that was imported, what happened? The profit went up. So through the, of course, importing the machine, installing the machine, they carried their own cost. But once the machine started manufacturing, and we, of course, had to hire you can say, an engineer who was expert in yarn manufacture. And he went and got trained in Taiwan, came back, started manufacturing, and the profit went up. So that was one reason. Profitability and growth is a very big reason for forming these joint ventures. And this joint venture, of course, had the concurrence of the Ministry of Commerce. And they, in every export consignment, these consignments were exported to Norway. The ministry's approval was to be mentioned in the invoice. So these are the rules. So when you have a joint venture, you have to know this is your approval number, date from Ministry of Commerce so that anybody can check and verify. And of course, this kind of joint venture, they all lead to, you can say, win-win situation on all sides. So we have a joint venture, which is a kind of a cooperative business arrangement between two or more firms. Obviously, there can be more than two firms which can come together in joint venture, but whatever they have come together, that must be mentioned in the approval which you get from the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. So it becomes a new legal entity. So it is under the law that they are formed, and obviously certain mutual needs are assigned to them. So that this, yes. Yeah. Any question?
No, sir, no, sir. I am talking about.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So these new legal entity that comes about is about fulfilling the mutual needs of the two firms. So their needs are fulfilled. Obviously, REFA used to procure these nets at a very high cost from their own country and from other sources, maybe Thailand and maybe Taiwan, but those costs were much higher compared to what they were able to get from India. So when they form a new legal entity, it benefits them. And of course, they are also making profit because they are partners. And how much partnership each has is also recorded in the legal entity, whether it is a 50-50 or 49-51. As per law, also you have to fulfill in like how much percentage of the foreign company is allowed. Initially, like say, if we take example of insurance, in insurance, initially only 25% was allowed for, all these companies which you have heard of, like say Bajaj Alliance. So Alliance is a foreign company, and Bajaj is an Indian company. They come together. Even SBI Insurance has got a foreign collaborator. So all these companies which are in insurance, initially government said only 25% is allowed for the foreign company to become partner. You cannot invest more than 25% in the business. Then it was raised to 49, so that at least the control is with the Indian firm. So 51% Indian will equity have, and 49% equity will belong to the foreign company. So those legal aspects need to be fulfilled if you are going to form a joint venture. Whatever is the prevailing. For example, now it is possible for a single brand retail outlet to have 100% FDI. That is to say that they can come into the country with 100% FDI. They do not need to form a joint venture. Of course, so far only one or two companies have come with that. We have this company which manufactures furnitures. They have opened a retail business which is 100% FDI. But then whatever is the legal binding at that time will have to be followed in the joint venture. Obviously, this joint venture also is about sharing technological skills and specific knowledge, which I told you. The mesh sizes, these are specific knowledge which we did not have. In fact, there were companies which were making fishing nets, but they did not know what is the requirement and why the mesh sizes that they give is very different from ours, because it is only half mesh size. So that specific knowledge was shared to us. Technology, as I've told you, first where to get the yarn, then later on how to manufacture your own yarn. These are all technological skills which was shared to us. They came down even for manufacturing and production. They sent their engineers who used to stay for months together, aligning the machines and making the proper product. Because if the product is not good enough, then obviously you cannot succeed in any marketing effort. And those companies which have entered into joint venture, there was of course a buyback arrangement in that. So they will not buy back, because if they buy, they cannot use it. So what they did was they sent their people who ensured that they corrected, and then they sent the proper product. So there was no question of rejections. So that was another, when they share technological skills, your skills becomes better. Now you have the ability and quality to sell to more than one firm abroad. Obviously, another important point is capital. Obviously, there are lots of sources of capital, but these are generally within the country, whether you have the state financial corporations like Bihar State Financial Corporation, BSFC, or OFFC, or WBFC. Every state has got a financial corporation. Government also gives you finances from the center. There are banks which give you finances. There are other financial firms which give you finance, but they're all internal capital. That is the capital that we get from the country. But in joint venture, it is possible to get external capital, which we know as FDI, or foreign direct investment. So these foreigners, they bring dollars or other currencies into India, and that is always a welcome step for the government, because it helps to correct the balance of payment position. So that becomes strong. That is why government stresses on FDI. They give incentives and leukers so that the foreign direct investment come into the country. So external capital becomes extremely important. Then, of course, there is a synergy in value. When two people who are experts in their respective domain, when they come together, 1 + 1 does not become 2, it becomes 11. That is synergy. So what happens that when these two companies, they come together, they bring expertise. For example, the Indian company can come in with cheap capital because the interest rates are very subsidized in India, especially when it comes to export. The export credit, export promotion of capital goods.
Sir, synergy part,
Yeah.
can you explain it again, sir? So synergy
There is a
in value, sir. Can you
the
explain?
synergy. Yeah, the synergy is a very simple thing. Synergy in management itself is very important. In fact, if you remember from your fundamentals of management, we teach synergy there. One of the objective of any management is to create synergy. This synergy is 1 + 1 is not 2, but 1 + 1 is 11. That is to say, the individual contribution to the managerial effectiveness and efficiency should be greater when you have more than one people coming together than their individual sum. For example, if 4 people are working, then the output should be greater than sum of the individual output of each. For example, each is able to, I will give you an example that will make it more clear. For example, you have in your classroom desks, right? Now you put one person to remove those desks from the classroom. What will he do? He will try to pick up one. It is impossible to pick up one. So he will pick up from one side, try to pull with one side on the floor. There will be a drag, and it will take a long time to take out the desks. Now, if 2 people come, individually, if each is picking up one desk, then of course, that will take a long time. But if 2 people come, what will happen? They will pick the desk from each end, and it will just go above the floor, and there will be no friction. And very efficiently and effectively, they can take out the desk in a very short time, very less time. So what is happening? 1 + 1 is becoming 11. Their efficiency becomes much greater. and that is synergy. So when we have people working in group, if the output is greater than the individual sum, we say that it is synergy. So that is the objective of management, that the individual's efforts must be greater than the individual sum. That management has to ensure. Sometimes when there is excess manpower, it acts opposite. Because what will happen, supposing we are talking about this removing of the desks, okay? So when the desks are being removed, if there are 8 people, then what they will do? There will only hardly 20, 30 desks to be moved. So he will say, you do it, he will say, you do it. They will start arguing and talking, and they will not do it effectively and efficiently. So that is, management has to see that the right amount of people are there to do the work, not too much, not too less. And that they will also ensure that synergy is being created. That is one of the objectives of management, to see that synergy is being created. So that is why we get synergy in value when 2 people come. So there are not 2 people, but 2 firms coming together. And management has to ensure that these 2 firms, their individual output is greater when it comes to them working together. So they are able to tap all the benefits of each other. So the Indian firm must bring on the table the benefits that they can provide through their own know-how and technology. And the foreign company also, or maybe another Indian company, if it's a joint venture within India, they also bring together their technology and know-how so that together the output is greater than what they would have done individually. That is what we mean when we say synergy in value. Okay? So this is a very important. Yeah, good. So this is very important, and obviously in management itself, it is a very important concept, and synergy must be created. Then only there is a point in coming together. Now we have examples of Toshiba and Sony. Now they come together to create the memory chip. Obviously, what Toshiba brings is electronic, and what Sony brings is electric. And these 2 individuals, which of course have got value in themselves, Toshiba has got a great value as a firm, Sony has a great value as a firm. When they come together to create a memory chip, obviously that output will be much superior to what they would have done individually. That is why we say that there is a synergy of Toshiba and Sony coming together. In fact, this is a reality. They have come together to create that memory chip, which now we find so popular because of its cost effectiveness and because of its superior capacity. When we get both, we find that they have achieved their target. Another good example is General Motors and Hitachi. What does General Motors make? Any idea? What is the product made by General Motors?
A General Motor means parts of.
Have you heard of Chevrolet? Have you heard of Chevrolet?
No, sir. Chevrolet.
It is a car. So General Motors makes automobiles, cars.
Oh yes,
and obviously vehicles. So the General Motors make vehicles of various kinds, and they are of course very popular. We had, I think, Chevrolet. General Motors did make an entry in India, but now they have stopped manufacture. I think they came in with their own Chevrolet and some other vehicles that they made. And Hitachi, we know Hitachi for being a good electronic component company. And they came together to make the automobiles now, the modern automobiles, they are full of electronic components. And that is because these two companies have come together to create that. So they bring their individual expertise, one which has to do with vehicles, and other which has got to do with electronic components. And then they onboard it onto the final product to create, again, synergy in value. So now, if you look at a car, you will find that everything is electronic. It's almost like having a computer on board the car, which controls everything. That is because of these joint ventures, because these two companies come together to create that. Now, you have to understand another aspect. We have licensing, we have franchising. Now, what is licensing? In licensing, basically what a company does is it allows another company to manufacture products and use its logo. It even, in fact, does not even transfer too much technology. So that is licensing, just allowing somebody else to manufacture on your behalf using your name. For example, Lacoste. You have heard of Lacoste?
Lacoste, yes.
What is it?
Brand cloth brands are Lacoste.
Good. It's a cloth brand. Basically, they are popular in France.
Yes, sir.
They have a crocodile, I think, as their logo.
Yes, sir.
And
Logo, yes,
Lacoste
sir.
France is very popular in T-shirts. Now,
Yes, sir.
T-shirts in India are much cheaper. And in fact, they make the T-shirts in India and supply to France, where they just put their logo and sell it. But they want to sell in India also. So what do? They know that Indians can manufacture a good T-shirt. So they just give a license to somebody. You make, put my logo, and you can sell. So Lacoste starts selling on the basis of licensing arrangement. They have nobody else can write that logo and that name. But the one who has got a license, he is going to make it and sell it without any issue. Why? Because he has a license from the company for, of course, which he pays the parent company who has created that brand a certain amount of fees. Now, opposed to this arrangement is very different from a joint venture. It cannot be called a joint venture. It can be called a licensing arrangement. Another arrangement is franchising arrangement. Now, in franchisee, you may have seen all these Domino's Pizza. They are all
KFC.
working on the basis of KFC. They all work on the basis of franchisees. Now, in franchising, there are again two companies. Like in licensing, also there are two companies. Joint venture, also there are two companies. But how the work is different. In franchisee, there is a franchisor and a franchisee. So one person who just a minute, I've got a call. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so sorry for that disturbance. So we have arrangement in which the person who is giving the franchisee, he gives technology, he gives central marketing, he gives the know-how. And the franchisor, he takes care of the local elements like providing a space, providing local people to support the business. He does not go in for the marketing, which is centralized. So TV ads and hoardings, they will be taken care of by the franchise, one who is giving the franchise. And local people employed, space in the local area. That is why you will find in franchisee arrangement, there can be more than one franchisee with specific geographical area. And one person will be, so he will take care of the quality of the product. He will tell you from where you can get the machinery to make the product, from where you will have to buy. They specify you must buy it from this place, the raw material, the capital goods, everything, so that they can control the quality of the output. So quality control is done through the local player by the central player. So here, this is two people coming with specific roles. In franchising arrangement, the roles are defined in the contract itself. So there is a contract here also in franchising. There is a contract in licensing also. These contracts are different. You have to understand that. And joint venture contracts are very different. Okay, so we must differentiate between the three. In franchising arrangement, the contract is one person who will take care of central marketing. Local marketing can be taken care of by the local person. And he will tell you how to make the product technology. He will give the technology. He will also tell you where to procure the raw materials and the products. And the local player will provide the local amenities. And that will how the franchisee arrangement will work. So joint venture is, of course, distinct from these two arrangements. Now, equity. What is equity? Can you tell me? What is equity?
Equity, sir, give some amount on the
Equity is the share of the owner, is known as equity. How much money each owner has put into the business. Say, if you, as an individual, if you have buy shares of a company, the total amount of shares that you have is your equity in that company.
Yes.
If you're looking at share Shark Tank, you'll see that they talk about equity. Okay, that equity is your amount of share that you put in. Now, the difference between a share or an equity being put in and a debt which is being given, what is the difference? Can you tell me? What is the difference between debt and equity? In both cases, money is being provided.
Yes, sir. Debt, sir, sir, कर्ज हो गया सर. डेट मींस लॉस.
करेक्ट, कर्ज हो गया. तो क्या क्या फर्क है कर्ज देने में और हिस्सा लेने में या इक्विटी लेने में? फर्क क्या है फाइनेंशियली?
यस सर.
फर्क यह है कि जब हम इक्विटी किसी को दे रहे हैं,
यस,
तो उसमें जब लॉस होगा तो हमको कुछ भी पैसा नहीं मिलेगा. अगर प्रॉफिट होगा, वो 300% प्रॉफिट हो, 200 हो या 10% प्रॉफिट हो, वो हमको उसका बराबर हिस्सा हमको मिलेगा. डेट में कर्ज में क्या होता है कि प्रॉफिट हो या लॉस हो, इससे कोई मतलब नहीं. हमको अगर 10% पे हमने दिया है इंटरेस्ट पे, 12% पे, 14% पे, उतना परसेंटेज आपको हमको देना है. कर्ज का ये मतलब हुआ. वो इरेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ योर प्रॉफिट. तो जब हम मालिक हैं तो जितना प्रॉफिट होगा वो मेरा. तो इक्विटी आपको मालिकाना हक देता है, कर्ज आपको मालिकाना हक नहीं देता है. कर्ज आपको सिर्फ आपके पैसे लौटाने और उस पे इंटरेस्ट लौटाने का अधिकार ही देता है.
यस सर.
क्लियर? So there is a big difference between the two. Now that we have understood what is equity, there can be two kinds of equity: a non-equity venture and a equity venture. इक्विटी वेंचर मतलब हो गया कि इक्वल 50-50 का पार्टनरशिप, और नॉन इक्विटी वेंचर हो गया जिसमें एक का 51 है, दूसरे का 49 है, तो नॉन इक्विटी हो गया। दोनों का बराबर तो है नहीं, एक का कम है, एक का ज्यादा है, भले 1% से 2% से हो, लेकिन कम ज्यादा होगा तो वो क्या कहलाएगा? नॉन इक्विटी वेंचर। और अगर बराबर होगा तो इक्विटी वेंचर कहलाएगा। इज दैट क्लियर?
Yes, I understand. Yes.
Okay, now we go into the rationale or the reasons for joint venture. क्यों हम लोग joint venture करते हैं? ये तो कारण होना चाहिए ना, वरना joint venture करेंगे ही नहीं। तो ये हम लोग एक एक करके देख लेते हैं। सबसे पहला तो हम लोग चाहते हैं कि इन्वेस्टमेंट करें। आज शार्क टैंक में बैठ के लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट क्यों करते हैं? आप बता सकते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट क्यों किया जाता है?
प्रॉफिट।
वेरी गुड, पैसा कमाने के लिए, प्रॉफिट करने के लिए। वो लोग देखते हैं कि इसमें पोटेंशियल है, अगर आज इसमें हम 5 रुपया लगाएंगे तो कल हम 25 रुपया पाएंगे। तो ये बात किसको बुरी लगेगी? सब लोग चाहेंगे कि हम इन्वेस्टमेंट करें। तो इन्वेस्टमेंट कहाँ की जाती है? जहाँ पे नजर आता है कि भविष्य में यहाँ से हमको बहुत ज्यादा वापस पैसा मिलेगा। तो इसमें हम फिर क्या, और दो कंपनी अगर आ रही है साथ में और उसमें दिख रहा है कि भविष्य में बहुत पैसे आने वाले हैं, तो हम लोग चाहेंगे कि इन्वेस्टमेंट को हम लोग बांटें ताकि दोनों को प्रॉफिट हो, दोनों को फायदा हो। तो एक कारण तो यही हो जाता है कि हमको, हमारे पास एक्सेस पैसा है जिसको हम इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं ताकि बिजनेस को बढ़ावा मिले और उससे हम फिर प्रॉफिट करें। ऑब्वियसली एवरी पर्सन who is investing is looking for a profit, to earn money, is looking to earn money. Normally, if you invest in a post office or a bank, there is a limit to what you will get. बहुत कम रिटर्न्स आएंगे, 8%, 10%, बहुत हुआ तो बहुत हुआ। जबकि जब हम बिजनेस में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो इट कैन कम बैक एज 300%, 200%. Obviously, people like that kind of money. Then the second reason for a joint venture is learning, acquisition of knowledge. Okay, so हमको सीखना है। क्या सीखना है? टेक्नोलॉजी, मार्केटिंग कैसे करते हैं। इनफैक्ट जब लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट करने आते हैं इवन शार्क टैंक में, तो एक मैं देख रहा था, उसने कहा कि आई वांट 100 hours of your time. क्यों? So that in those 100 hours he can learn how to do marketing, how to do production. उसको एक चीज आता है, एक चीज नहीं आता है, तो दूसरी चीज आप सिखा दो। तो जॉइंट वेंचर में यही चीज होती है कि जब दोनों आते हैं तो वो लोग एक दूसरे से सीखना चाहते हैं और एक दूसरे से जो नॉलेज एक्विजिशन है वो करना चाहते हैं कि हम उसका नॉलेज जान ले कि उनके देश में कैसे फिशिंग नेट बनती है ताकि हम उस क्वालिटी, उस स्टैंडर्ड का फिशिंग नेट बना सके। तो ये तभी संभव है जब वो नॉलेज हमसे शेयर करेगा, जब वो हमको बताएगा कि कैसा चाहिए, हमको सिखाएगा कि उसको कैसे बनाते हैं, है ना? Let me know when it is time, okay?
Yes, sir.
Now there is another reason for coming together is to fulfill each other's needs. Now there could be one need of one company, another need of one company. So one company needs product at lower prices, cheaper, good quality. One company needs the technical ability, the financial investment. So when these two they come together, they bring, that is, they fulfill each other's needs. Argument का मतलब होता है एक दूसरे का पूरक बनना। तो टेक्निकल एबिलिटी और फाइनेंशियल एबिलिटी में हम एक दूसरे को पूरा कर देते हैं थ्रू द जॉइंट वेंचर। That's another reason for forming a joint venture, so that we fulfill each other's needs. What I need, you give. What you need, I will give. And then we come together and form a joint venture. That is another very good reason for coming together. Now, there are two skills which are required for business. One is the technological skill for which business is done, and another is the management skill. Both are equally important. If you have a good production and no management skill to market it and to get finance, then you will not be able to proceed. So we need both. And through joint venture, these skills are exchanged and imparted so that the results become very good.
Yes, sir.
Another good reason is to diversify the risk. Now, if I go alone, and there's a fundamental of business is the greater the risk, the more the reward. So we tend to take a lot of risk in business. Now, if I go for a high risk in business, then of course there is a danger that I will lose money because of the risk. That danger, if I can reduce it by dividing it between two people, then I benefit. So this is the meaning of diversifying the risk. We divide the risk into two people and thereby we benefit. That is called diversification of the risk. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Obtain distribution channel or raw material. Sometimes, if we can obtain the distribution channel, for example, we don't know how to sell fishing nets in Norway. But if I collaborate with REFA, REFA knows how to sell fishing nets in Norway, and they can easily sell it because they have got a distribution channel. They have got tie-up with the fishing people and with the boats and the people who go for fishing, and they can sell it easily. But I cannot. At the same time, the cost at which petrochemical nylon 6 can be obtained in India is much less as compared to Norway. So the raw material procurement becomes a USP of Indian company. And the distribution channel becomes the USP of the foreign company. So joint venture. Another example you can take is of Tata and Chorus. Chorus is a company which is in it is based in Taiwan. And Tata's went and bought it. Now, why did they buy it? Because Tata already has got so much of raw material. They have got entire hills of iron ore in Tata, Jamshedpur. So their raw material was not the problem, but they wanted to sell in China. And Chorus had a distribution channel in China. So through this, they were able to tap the distribution channel. That is the reason why they came together. So obviously, this becomes a very important reason for joint venture, either to get into a distribution channel or raw material, whatever is their need. And then, of course, we have economies of scale. When we produce, say, 100 items, the amount of money that we get or we benefit is, I think we will understand economies of scale better with an example. Supposing my fixed cost is 100 rupees and variable cost is 5 rupees. If I make 50 products, what is my cost? 100 will be same. 5
Yes.
into 50. So 5 into 50 is 250. So 350 becomes my cost for making how many? 50 products. Now, if I increase my scale to 100 products, fixed cost will remain the same, 100. What will be my variable cost? 5 into 100, 500, right? So my cost will be 600 rupees. So for each product, cost comes to 6 rupees. Now, 350 divided by 50 is how much?
7.
350 divided by 50 is 7 rupees.
Yes, sir.
Is it? So 7 rupee is more than 6 rupees. So the more I produce, less becomes my cost. That is called economies of scale. The more I produce, the lesser the cost.
Yes.
So through joint venture, yes, is it time?
Yes, the time is up.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Please repeat, I couldn't hear. Okay, if it is time, then we'll stop because we will have to continue. But let me try and finish this.
Okay.
The reasons or rationale for entering into a joint venture. Let's finish this.
Okay.
So we extend business. That is another important thing. We extend the business. Now, earlier, the Sadoba was selling only in India. Now the business is extended to foreign countries. So through joint venture, we can increase the scope of business, take advantage of tax and political incentives. So when they found out that there was a political incentive in the sense of exports, imports, a lot of incentives are given in India. For importing machine from Taiwan, we got it through 0% import duty. Why? Because it was imported under export promotion of capital goods. So that is a incentive. Then the tax in different countries are different. So if we are exporting, what is the tax on export? Any idea? No, 0%. Whatever you earn, you don't have to pay anything. If you have paid a tax indirectly, you can recover it also through GST. You know, it is recoverable because it is 0%. If it was nil, then it is not recoverable. If it is 0%, you can recover it. That is the tax treatment advantage. In input tax credit, we get it back from the GST office. Whatever money tax that we have made, supposing I've brought in some handles and things from another company I bought, and that company has already paid a tax. That tax I will get back from the government if I'm exporting it. So that is the tax advantage. And of course, the political incentive. If it's not clear, you always ask me, what is the input tax credit? What is GST and how they can be recovered? Because it is very simple. Whatever tax which has already been paid will also, and there will of course be no tax on export. It is 0%. You cannot be taxed for that. So those are the incentives which joint ventures they try to benefit out of each other. Now we'll go into the reasons for failure of joint venture in the next class. Is it okay? Any other question that you may have?
No, sir. No.
Okay, so let me first stop the recording. Record and transcribe. Stop recording. Stop.